He texted you last night. The date was electric. Something felt different about this one. And now it's the next morning, and you're doing what millions of women do every single day. You're waiting, watching, wondering if what you felt was real for him too, or whether you're about to get that slow fade that you've experienced one too many times before. Here's what most people never realize. A man who is genuinely falling for you cannot control what he does the next day. His behavior will betray him. Not in a cruel way, in a beautiful way. Because when a man is truly catching feelings, his actions in the 24 hours after seeing you are the most honest window you will ever get into how he really feels. The problem is, nobody teaches you what to look for. If you've ever lain awake analyzing a text, replaying a conversation, trying to decode whether his behavior meant something real, this video is going to give you something far more powerful than a read receipt or a double tap. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what a man who is falling hard cannot stop himself from doing the next day, and you'll never have to guess again. Let's be honest about where you are right now. You've been trying so hard to figure this out. Not because you're insecure, not because you're needy, but because you're smart. And smart people want information. They want to understand what they're walking into. The problem is that the information you've been given is wrong. You've been told to play it cool, to not reach out first, to wait 72 hours, to seem busy, to manufacture mystery. And maybe some of that has worked tactically in the short term, but it has never once told you what you actually need to know, which is, does this man actually want me, or does he just want the thrill of the chase? Because here's what the play it cool advice doesn't account for. A man who is genuinely falling doesn't care about the game. He's not running a strategy. He's not thinking about the right move or the wrong move. He's just feeling something he can't turn off. And that feeling is going to express itself whether he wants it to or not. The next day behavior is everything. Think of it as the moment the mask comes off. The date itself, that can be performed. Charm can be manufactured. A good conversation can be rehearsed. But the next day, when he wakes up in his own space, when the adrenaline has settled, when there's no social pressure to be impressive, what he does then is just him. And when that him is thinking about you, you'll know, because you'll see it in this list. Let's go. Let's start with the most obvious one, because even the obvious ones need to be properly understood. When a man is falling hard, he doesn't calculate the right time to text you. He doesn't open a text thread, think better of it, and decide to wait another day so he doesn't seem too eager. He texts you. And he usually texts you early. Not because he's following a script, because you were the first thing he thought about when he woke up. And the gap between that thought and his reaching for his phone is basically zero. Now, I want to be precise here, because not every morning text means a man is falling. A man can text you the morning after out of habit, out of courtesy, or out of a desire to keep options open. The quality of that text matters as much as the timing. The man who is falling doesn't send you a "hey" or "had fun last night." He sends you something specific. He references something you said. He brings up something he thought about since seeing you. He continues the conversation as though it never ended, because in his mind, it didn't. He's been thinking about you since you said goodbye, and the text is just the conversation resuming. My client Jess told me about a man she'd gone on a third date with. She'd mentioned in passing that she'd never seen a particular film he loved. The next morning, before she'd even had coffee, he texted her, "Just ordered it on Blu-ray. Fair warning, I'm dropping it off next time I see you. No, had fun. No, we should do this again." Just the assumption that there would be a next time and already planning it. She told me, "I read it 3 times. I couldn't stop smiling." That text wasn't charming because it was clever. It was charming because it was real. He wasn't performing. He was just a man who had thought about her and couldn't help but let her know. A man who is falling doesn't calculate when to reach out. He just does. Because the pull toward you is stronger than the fear of looking eager. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's a truth about the human brain that changes everything. We remember what we replay. When you're genuinely excited about something, a trip you're planning, a project you're invested in, a person you can't stop thinking about, your mind goes back to it over and over again. You rehearse it, you relive it, and in doing so, you commit the details to memory without even trying. So when a man follows up the next day and remembers something specific, not the broad strokes of the night, but the small things, that tells you his brain has been playing the tape back. He was present enough during your time together for the details to stick. And he's been thinking about you enough since for those details to surface. He might remember that you mentioned your sister is going through something difficult, and he asks how she is. He might remember you said you had a big presentation at work and asks how it went. He might bring up a joke the two of you shared and add a new punchline to it. These are not accident. They are the fingerprints of a man whose attention has been fully on you. Rachel had been seeing someone casually. She liked him, but wasn't sure if he was serious. Then one day, about 18 hours after their last date, he texted her completely unprompted. "Did you ever find that restaurant you were trying to remember? The one your grandmother used to take you to?" She had mentioned it once, in passing, as a throwaway line in a much bigger conversation. He remembered. She told me later, "I realized in that moment, he wasn't just there that night. He was with me. He was actually listening." Think about what it means to be truly listened to. Not heard, listened to. Most people are composing their next sentence while you're still talking. A man who remembers the small things isn't just interested in you. He is invested in you. Memory is a love language nobody talks about. The man who remembers the small things is telling you, in the most understated way possible, that you matter to him. Now, this next one might genuinely shock you. This is the one most women never get to see. But it is the most honest signal on this entire list. And it is completely beyond his control. When a man is falling hard, he tells someone. A best friend, a brother, a work colleague he grabs coffee with. He doesn't make a big announcement. It's usually something small, almost offhand, but it happens because the feeling is too big to stay inside. Think about how you behave when you're excited about something. When you get a piece of good news or something wonderful happens, what's the first instinct? You tell someone. Not because you have to, because holding a good feeling alone somehow makes it less real. Sharing it makes it solid. Men are not as different from you in this way, as the world wants you to believe. The man who is catching feelings for you is going to mention you. He might bring it up casually. Yeah, I've been seeing someone. It's early days, but she's... and then try to sound nonchalant while describing you. He might ask a friend for advice about something specific, where to take you, what you said, whether a particular thing he's thinking of doing is too much too soon. He might just say your name in conversation when there was no particular reason to. And that name, just your name, dropped into a conversation with his friend, is everything. Let me tell you about Daniel. Daniel was not a man who talked about his feelings. By his own admission, he was the friend in his group who always deflected personal questions, who changed the subject when relationships came up, who had a reputation for being emotionally unavailable. Then he met Sophia. His best friend Marcus told me this story. He said, "We were watching football. Nothing had happened. We weren't talking about her. We weren't talking about relationships at all. And then out of nowhere, Daniel goes, 'Her name is Sophia, by the way, in case I hadn't mentioned it.' Marcus laughed. I said, 'You hadn't mentioned it.' And he just nodded and went back to watching the game, like he'd needed to say her name out loud, like that was just something he needed to do. That is a man falling. Not the grand speech, not the declaration, just a man who needed to say your name in a room where someone could hear it. Think about that for a second. Your name in someone's mouth when you're not there. That's not obligation. That's not politeness. That's longing. That's a man whose world has been rearranged a little, and he needs his closest people to know. You might never see this happen, but it is happening. And the behavior you do see, the texting, the reaching, the remembering, those are the surface expression of the same feeling that made him say your name out loud to his best friend, when he can't stop mentioning you to people who've never met you. You have stopped being someone he's dating. You've become someone he's thinking about building something with. And if that one hit hard, this next one is going to hit differently. You know the phrase. You've heard it more times than you'd like. We should do this again sometime. Or the even more non-committal, this was great. These statements feel like promises. They are not. They are social filler. The relationship equivalent of, let's get coffee, to an acquaintance you have no intention of calling. A man who is genuinely falling does not deal in vague futures. He names a day. He names an activity. He creates a slot in his life for you because he wants to make sure you're in it. "Are you free Thursday?" is a different sentence from, "We should hang out again." One is an intention. The other is an action. And when a man is falling hard, he moves from intention to action fast, because the uncertainty of not having a plan to see you again is deeply uncomfortable for him. He might not have it all figured out. The plan might be simple, but it is specific. And that specificity is the whole point. Nadia had been burned before by men who were great at saying all the right things and terrible at following through. After a fourth date with someone new, she braced herself for, "This was fun, we'll figure something out." Instead, he said, "I'm going to that farmer's market on Saturday morning. It's small, but it's good. Would you want to come?" Farmer's market, Saturday morning, specific. She told me it wasn't glamorous, but I said yes immediately, because something about the specificity of it made me feel chosen, like he'd actually imagined me in his Saturday morning. That's exactly it. He imagined her in his life, not in a hypothetical future, in this weekend. Vague plans protect him from rejection. Specific plans tell you he's willing to risk it, because the possibility of seeing you is worth the vulnerability of asking. Most communication between two people who are newly dating has an underlying purpose: to make plans, to keep things moving forward, to maintain attraction. Even the flirty text can be a strategic move. But when a man is falling hard, something changes. He starts checking in with no agenda whatsoever. He texts you in the middle of the day just because he thought of you. He sends you something, an article, a meme, a voice note, just because he knew you'd appreciate it. He asks about your day, not because it's the right thing to say, but because he genuinely wants to know. This is the behavioral hallmark of emotional investment. When a man's interest is purely physical or surface level, he contacts you when he wants something. When his interest has gone deeper, when you have become important to him, not just the idea of you, he contacts you just to be in contact, just to bridge the gap between now and the next time he sees you. That's not clinginess, that's attachment. And there's a profound difference. Maya had been dating someone for about 6 weeks. She told me for the first few weeks he'd text when we were making plans, and that was basically it. Then something shifted. One afternoon, totally out of nowhere, he sent me a photo of a dog he'd seen on his lunch break with just, "Thought of you immediately." She paused and then said, "I'm allergic to dogs." I'd told him that on our first date, and he still knew that a funny-looking dog would make me smile. He wasn't reaching out because he wanted something. He reached out because being in contact with her felt good, and he wanted that feeling. That's the whole story. When he reaches out with nothing to gain but the sound of your virtual voice, he's not maintaining contact. He's building a home in it. Here's the paradox that most people miss. The more a man cares, the more unsure of himself he becomes. When a man doesn't care that much, he's effortlessly cool. Why wouldn't he be? There's nothing at stake. He can say anything because he has nothing to lose. He can be confident because your opinion of him doesn't really matter to him. But when he's falling, when you've gone from someone he's casually seeing to someone he needs to impress, when your good opinion of him has become genuinely important, that confidence gets complicated. He second guesses the text. He rewrites it. He asks himself if the joke landed. He wonders if he said too much or too little. He might be more formal than usual. He might be more careful with his words. He might follow up on something he said the night before just to make sure it didn't land wrong. He's monitoring himself in a way he doesn't bother with someone he's indifferent to. Now, this doesn't mean he becomes a mess. Confident men can still be nervous about things that matter. But that nervousness, that slight over-carefulness, is actually a gift. Because what it's telling you is, you matter to him enough to be worth the anxiety. Lauren told me her guy texted her the day after their second date with, "I feel like that story I told about my ex came out wrong. I wasn't trying to be weird about it. I just wanted you to know." He hadn't even said anything offensive. He'd just told a normal story. But he'd been thinking about it since, worrying about her perception of him, and felt compelled to address it. Lauren said, "At first I thought it was a little odd. Then I realized he only cares that much because he cares. That little bit of overthinking, That was him telling me I was important. She was right. Nervousness is not a flaw in a man who is falling. It is the evidence. You can't be anxious about something that doesn't matter to you. One more. And this last one, this is the one you need to hold on to. This is the most advanced signal on the list, and it shows up in a very specific way. When a man is just attracted to you, he's interested in you as you've been presented to him. The version of you on the date. The curated, best foot forward version. He likes what he's seen and he wants more of it. But when a man is falling, he gets curious about the whole of you. He starts asking questions about your life before him, your childhood, your family, the things that shaped you. He wants to know what you're afraid of and what you dream about. He wants to know the unsexy stuff, the complicated family dynamics, the career doubts, the version of you at 3 a.m. when life feels too big. He asks questions that have no flattering angle because he's not trying to impress you anymore. He wants to know you. And there's an enormous difference. Watch for the questions that seem to go beyond what's necessary for a new relationship. The ones that feel almost too interested, almost too real. Those aren't him being intense. Those are him building a map of you because he intends to stay long enough to navigate it. A woman I worked with, Priya, told me about a man who, the day after their 3rd date, sent her a voice note. Just a voice note, out of nowhere. He said, "I've been thinking about something you said, that you used to want to be a marine biologist before you switched paths. What happened? Like, what was the actual moment?" She said, "No one had ever asked me that. Not like that. Not with that kind of real curiosity." She answered. They talked for 2 hours. 6 months later, they were together. Not because of grand romance, because of a man who cared enough to ask the question that no one else had bothered to ask. The man who wants to know your whole story isn't just interested in a relationship. He's already thinking about a future, one where he gets to know every chapter. The last one is the simplest, and in many ways, the most important. There will always be men who perform well in the high-stakes moments, who are charming on dates, who say the right things when they want something, who show up with effort when the situation demands it. But a man who is falling hard, genuinely, not strategically, is consistent even when there's nothing to perform for. He's warm in the Tuesday night text when there's no date on the horizon. He's engaged in the conversation that happens mid-afternoon about nothing in particular. He's still him when the romantic pressure is off. This consistency is not boring. It is the most reliable indicator of real feeling that exists, because anyone can be amazing when amazing is what the moment calls for. The man who is actually falling shows up just as fully in the unspecial moments, because to him, any moment with you is special. Watch for this. Watch for the man who doesn't just turn it on during dates or when he wants something. Watch for the man whose warmth, attention, and care is steady. Not a performance, but a presence. That man is not playing a game. He's falling, and he's falling in the real, irreversible, beautiful way that doesn't have a playbook. Consistency isn't boring. It's the bravest thing a man can offer, because it means he's showing you who he is, not just who he wants you to think he is. We covered a lot today, 8 behaviors, 8 windows into the soul of a man who is genuinely falling. But I want you to notice something about all of them. None of them require him to be perfect. None of them require grand gestures, expensive dinners, or perfectly crafted declarations of love. What they all require is one thing. He shows up as himself, honestly, in the direction of you. The text that doesn't calculate the right time to send, the memory of something small you said, the name he couldn't stop himself from mentioning to his friend, the specific plan he made because a vague future with you felt unbearable, the check-in that had no agenda, the nervousness that came from caring too much, the curiosity about your whole story, the consistency in the ordinary moments. These are not the signs of a man running a strategy. These are the signs of a man being overtaken by something he didn't plan for. And here's what I need you to understand. Really understand, not just intellectually, but feel it. You do not have to earn this. You do not have to be smaller or more mysterious or less of yourself or more patient or less demanding. You do not have to decode or decipher or decode again. When the right man is falling for you, his behavior will speak so clearly that the only thing you'll have to do is decide whether you want to catch him. The confusion you've felt in the past, the second guessing, the late night analysis, the question of, but does he actually like me? That confusion exists because some of the men you've invested in weren't actually falling. And that is not a failure. That is information. Because now you know what falling looks like. It looks like a morning text that references something you said in passing. It looks like a voice note asking the question no one else thought to ask. It looks like a man who is the same person on a Tuesday with nothing to prove as he is on a Saturday date with everything at stake. Stop settling for men who make you question your value. Start recognizing the ones who make their feelings undeniable, not through words, but through the quiet, consistent, unstoppable pull of their behavior. That man is not a fantasy. He is real. And the moment you stop accepting less, the moment you refuse to explain away half-hearted behavior or give endless benefit of the doubt to someone who keeps you confused, you create space for him to find you. You deserve certainty. You deserve to be chosen so clearly that it never crosses your mind to wonder. This is your moment. Don't waste it. If this video helped you see your situation more clearly, if it gave you even one thing that made the picture sharper, then hit subscribe right now. Every single week, we go deeper on the psychology of real connection, what men actually feel, and how you build a relationship that doesn't leave you guessing. And next, watch this. If he does these 6 things in public, he's completely in love with you. Because what a man does when the world is watching tells you just as much as what he does in private. The link is right there. I'll see you in it.